Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. And now I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free and each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
It's time for Around the Ozarks Sports Scene, brought to you by Fast Break Sports, the largest selection of cards and card supplies in Southwest Missouri. Now here's your host, Scott Puryear.
Welcome in to another edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. I am Scott Puryear. Thanks for joining me again this week, and also big thanks to our sponsor, Fast Break Sports of Springfield. Your home for all things sports collectibles, cards, memorabilia. They've got it at Fast Break Sports. So we're going to talk a little golf today, a couple interviews. Some of our brightest young golf stars in the area are going to join us in separate interviews. We start off by introducing on the podcast this week with us Lyla Louderbaugh, the standout at the University of Kansas, former Springfield Catholic star golfer, the pride of Buffalo, Missouri. Lyla, how you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a big time for you, and the other half of the interview coming on here in a bit, Regan Zibilski. Of course, you guys were Springfield Catholic teammates. How many years?
3 years. She was a year older than me.
Okay. And were you at Catholic all four or 3 or 4?
I was all 4, yes.
All 4. Awesome. So we mentioned the pride of Buffalo, Missouri. I imagine you're probably becoming a pretty big deal back home, or not?
Yeah.
Are we getting close to the home of Lyla Louderbaugh sign when you enter the Buffalo city limits?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
well, hopefully.
We'll work on that. Well, you've had a big summer. I wanted to bring you back on and talk about that. You've got a big week ahead next week with the U.S. Women's Amateur down in Tulsa at Southern Hills Country Club. Before we get started on kind of the summer, your thoughts going into next week. Is this your first Women's Am?
Yeah, it's my second USGA event, but my first Women's Am event. I'm excited. I know it's going to be a challenge, but I've been practicing really hard and preparing for all the things that might come this way this week, so I'm excited.
Well, it's not enough that it's the Women's Amateur, but then to play it at Southern Hills where, we were just watching major championships, last year, a couple years ago down there. It's been the host of several on the men's side, I'm sure some on the women's side as well. Have you had a chance to get a look at Southern Hills yet, or when will that come, if not?
Yeah, I went down a couple years ago for the PGA Championship, but other than that, I've kind of just been studying aerial views of the course and doing what I can electronically before I get there.
What do you think of it before you step on it to actually play?
I think off the tee it should be fine, but the challenge is going to be around the greens, hitting greens, and keeping the ball on the putting surface.
Yeah, a lot of undulations on those greens, which is pretty typical for a major championship side. And so you guys start on Monday, correct, with stroke play? What is the format? I know it's stroke and then match, correct?
Yeah. So the first 2 rounds are Monday and Tuesday, and they're just 18-hole stroke play. And then Wednesday you get seeded into 64 of match play. So I believe the field is 152-ish, and so you just have to make top 64 to be in match play. And
tell us how you got into the big field here.
Yeah, so we had a local qualifier up in Lawrence, Kansas, which is where the University of Kansas is. We don't, which is where I go, obviously, I guess, but we don't practice that course because it's a public course. But I played that same qualifier last year, so I knew the course pretty well. So I started the day. I hit my first drive into a penalty area.
Nice.
So I took a drop, and I ended up being 3 over through 5 holes. And there was kind of a moment where I just told myself if I wanted to give myself a chance, I needed to just kind of give it all I had and not try too hard, but just keep my head down and play the golf that I can play. And so I ended up birdieing, I think it was 6 in a row, and then finished at 4 under for the tournament.
Wow.
For the 18 holes.
You birdied 6 holes in a row?
Yes, sir.
Have you had a streak like that before that or not?
No, I haven't. I think that was the most holes I birdied in a row. But yeah, I've shot 709 over at Fremont in Ozark. Is that in Ozark? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, that was the longest birdie streak I've had, so it was fun. I really enjoyed it.
Wow. And how many were competing for how many spots in the women's am?
I think there were around 40 there competing for 3 spots and then 2 alternate spots.
And you and Regan, just so happens former high school teammates, get 2 of those 3 spots, right?
Yeah, we both tied at 4 under.
That's awesome. Yeah. And do you guys run into each other much during the summer or collegially now that you're not teammates anymore?
Yeah, this summer we played 3 tournaments against each other, but in college we don't. We're in different conferences, so there's not really chances for us to see each other out there. And
you both played the women's am at Hickory Hills, correct? And did you tie for second, both of you?
Yeah, we both tied for second at 1 under for the 3 days.
And the winner was, a Michigan State golfer, I think, right?
Yeah. I think she was from St. Louis area.
Okay. Did you were you disappointed with the tie for second? I know Regan got off to a really slow start there the first day. Did you have kind of a similar start, or?
I actually played. I think I shot 1 under or 2 under the first round, and then I shot even the second round. So I knew I had a chance going into the final round. The front 9 was going pretty good. It was just kind of slow golf, but I mean, slow and steady is pretty much the golf I play. And so I was just content with my round so far. And then the back 9, I had 1 hiccup hole, and that kind of threw me out of it, but I fought back and I birdied 18 to get in that tie for second. So I was proud of my performance at that tournament, definitely.
How cool is it for you and Regan both to make it out of that field?
Yeah, I think she's awesome. Like, we're always so competitive against each other, but at the end of the day, we're always going to congratulate each other and give each other hugs and tell each other how much we miss them, and it's fun. It's a great competition. I love it.
Well, you bounce back from that we'll say a loss, a tie for second, and you haven't lost since. I mean, you win the women's amateur in Kansas, the Kansas State Amateur by 11 shots. Explain that. How does somebody win a state amateur by 11 strokes?
Well, that course was also in Lawrence, Kansas, which is one of our home courses that we play probably 2 times a week up there.
Okay.
So I knew the course really well, but I wasn't home qualifying much, so I didn't play it as much as my other teammates did. So I obviously know the course pretty well, but some of my teammates were at that tournament, and they definitely had an advantage over me, but I trusted in what I knew in the course and my preparation, and I just went out there and we played 36 the first day, and I shot even 1 over, and I was happy with that. That's a really challenging course and it's very demanding, especially around the greens. So I was happy with my play, and after the first 18, I think I was down 3 shots, and then after the second round, I was up 3 shots going into the final round. So I was playing with the leaders and the girls that were near me. So into that day, I knew it was going to be slow because we did tee times off front 9 only, which before we'd done front and back. So I just kind of tried to stay in the moment and really focus on going through my pre-shot routine and going through each shot, because it's so easy for me to kind of just go through the motions when it's slow play. So I really kept in it, and I ended up shooting 2 under and kind of just ran away with it, yeah.
What other events have you played this summer besides the 2 state AMs and the women's amateur qualifier?
I played the Kansas women's match play. That was right before Eagle Bend, the Eagle Bend qualifier for the U.S. Women's Am. And so that was 18 holes first round, and then it was seeded in the match play. And then I won the stroke play portion at 2 under, and then I played 3 matches and I want all of them to win the tournament there too.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you swept the stroke and the match play championships.
Yeah. And in the final match, I was playing against a girl from Wichita, and she shot 5 under, and I shot 6 under in that.
That's amazing. Well, and I think, you won 4 state championships at Catholic, is that correct?
Yeah.
And individually, where were you in those years?
I made all-state all 4 years. I got third I think my senior year, so definitely disappointing. I wanted to win my senior year, but it wasn't meant to be, so that's all right. I still had a great freshman year at KU, so.
Well, and I guess the thing, from people that I know in golf and know you, that you're the classic late bloomer, that you've really come on. Well, I mean, just look at this summer, what you've done, and then, your freshman year at Kansas. And I also hear, I think from our earlier discussion, maybe on the radio a year ago, that you are a range rat, basically. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. I spend a lot of time on the range. I've actually tried to, change my ways in that. I've really got into more playing, and I feel like that's made a huge difference in my game. I know a year ago I was really working on my swing, and that definitely helped me to where I am now, but now it's just to the point where you got to implement it onto the course and really learn how to score, and that's what I'm doing really well right now. So,
well, tell us about your freshman year at Kansas. You went up there as like everybody else, probably a little wide-eyed just because it's college golf and a different level. To kind of give us your summary of how that went.
Yeah, I set the freshman scoring record for 18 in the first tournament of my college career at 5 under, so that was really fun. And my fall season was really good. I had one of the lowest scoring averages on my team, and I think it may have been the lowest fall stroke average for a freshman, but I'm not sure. I'd have to check with my coach on that.
Yeah, that is correct. I saw that in your bio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. And then, I broke my toe over the winter break, and then I don't know, my game kind of fell off in the spring, but I was able to qualify for all of the in-season tournaments. So I'm proud of how I played my freshman year, and I'm definitely looking forward to beating my own personal goals, and I'm just excited to be back there.
How do you break a toe over Christmas break?
I was at my grandma's house, and I just stubbed it really hard on a piece of her furniture, so that was unfortunate, but it was okay.
Well, we live in an age now where nobody stays put, and kids who improve rapidly, like yourself, like you've done just in 1 year in golf, they look at the portal and NIL and all that. Is that something that interests you, or are you pretty happy in Lawrence, Kansas right now?
No, I have no interest in leaving Kansas. It's so much fun. I love my team. I love my coaches. I love our facility. I love Lawrence. It's just a great area, and I don't see myself being anywhere else but there. So I'm very happy with where I am. What
number do you anticipate you'll play in the order for Kansas this coming season?
I'm hoping I'm top 3. So that's the goal.
Well, and that's an indication of how much that program's come in the last few years too. I know that it's kind of one of the up and coming rising programs out there in women's college golf, and I'm sure that's a goal of yours to keep it going that direction, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, Southern Hills next week. You start Monday down there. Your caddy is for those who've played golf here locally, remember Randall Schultz that played at Hillcrest and played at Drury and ate a few Andy's frozen custards in his time before retirement now. And now he's retired to becoming your caddy. And my understanding is you fired him at Belle Reve because he couldn't read a putt. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Randall's great. He knows my game really well, and I can trust that he will make the right decisions for me. So I'm happy to have him on the bag this week.
If not, I mean, do you have a backup plan, like your parents or anybody, or is it Randall pretty much? You're going sink or swim with him?
Yeah, It'll just be him. If I kick him off, I'll go solo, but I don't think I'll need to do that.
What, I've been down there a couple times when they used to have like the PGA, and it's just brutal in August in Tulsa at times. Are you preparing for that mentally and physically, because it's going to be really hot and really humid?
Yeah. I know I've been looking at the forecast, and I think it's going to be high 90s, almost 100s, but I always think that I play the best golf when it's really hot outside, so I'm excited for it. Like, I'm holding nothing back.
What would be a good week for Lyla Louderbaugh at Southern Hills next week?
I want to shoot around even in the stroke play and then make it in the match play and see how far I can go in that.
What if we get a Lyla versus Regan final? Would that be fun?
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun.
Will there be any mind games being played if that happens?
No, I'm sure it would be pretty quiet. I feel like when we're both in the moment, we don't talk very much. We're very focused and concentrated on the golf.
Well, and then hugs after, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Lyla, appreciate your time and best of luck to you. We'll be watching next week, and we'll catch up with you again, hopefully this time next year when you're winning U.S. Women's Amateurs and everything else, okay?
Yeah. Thank you, Scott.
Great. You bet. Thank you, Lyla. Our second half of the Around the Ozarks Sports Scene podcast this week, we're talking women's golf, and we're visiting with one of our favorites, Regan Zibilski, the former Springfield Catholic standout who, like Lyla Louderbaugh, is headed down to Tulsa next week to compete in the U.S. Women's Amateur. Regan, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure. We made you call the Hogs live on radio when Ned and I had John back then, and you were just okay at it. I would hope now going into your third year down there, you're a lot better.
I've gotten a little bit better, I must say.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of just becomes ingrained in you, doesn't it, at some point?
It does. It's a way of life, as some people like to say.
Well, we left off the interview with Lyla talking about a possible Lyla versus Regan final down in Tulsa for the women's amateur title. I'm sure you wouldn't object to that. And she said it would be a little quiet in that group when you two are playing each other because that's just the way you compete.
It is. Honestly, I can't imagine having it a better way, ending off a U.S. amateur with two high school teammates squaring off. But it would be a little quiet. She actually is having one of my dad's best friends / one of our family friends caddy for her next week. So it would maybe be quiet between the two of us, but I would definitely be gabbing it out with our friends.
Yeah, with Randall. Yeah, we've discussed Randall, that he's been fired from her bag once this summer already, and it could happen again next week.
Already.
Yes, but no, it should be a lot of fun. And again, I was trying to keep track. Is this your third women's amateur?
It is, yes. I played in 2020 and 2022.
And what ended in match play both times? I'm sorry, ended in stroke play, or did you make match play?
I made match play my first year and missed the cut by one at Chambers Bay in 2020.
And is it one of those things that you have a number in your head going in terms of the two stroke play days, which are Monday and Tuesday next week, and I need to get here, or does it kind of fluctuate depending on the site and the field?
Normally it fluctuates, but, if you kind of go back and look, in the last 5 or 10 years, there's kind of a common denominator and kind of a common number that you probably need to stay within. And that number is usually +4 to +6. But honestly, my mentality has changed a lot from making match play to trying to be medalist. So having that mentality kind of changes the way you look at it, and you're no longer thinking like, hey, what's the cut going to be, or hey, what's medalist going to be? Because it's a championship golf course, and even par could be medalist. I mean, that's how hard they can set it up. So it just is honestly, I don't want to say crapshoot, but kind of, because the USGA has a lot of tricks up their sleeve, and you never know what side it's going to be on, and you never know if it's going to be the first day or the second day. I've seen the greens rolling a 9 in the practice round and a 12 to 13 on the first round of stroke play. So you just never know.
Yeah. Which kind of throws out the whole purpose of the practice round if they're not going to have it set up like it's going to be. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. But they're notorious for that, for sure.
You know, you played with Lyla for 3 years. You know, you're a year older than she is. Could you see this coming from her when you guys were teammates at Catholic? I mean, the steady improvement to the level where, you know, she wins the Kansas Women's Amateur by 11 strokes and makes the U.S. Amateur field now. I mean, did you see that kind of boiling in her when she was young?
I did, 100%. And I've had a couple other people ask me that within the last year or so, just because she's had a great last couple years, a junior and then her freshman year in college. And, I mean, everyone I've talked to, I've said 100%. Like, that kid has so much grit, and I've been lucky enough to have played with her for a lot longer than just 3 years in high school. We grew up playing golf together, you know, in Springfield and senior golf tournament. And then just getting to practice with her every single day for 3 years, I feel like I know her game more than I know my own sometimes. So she has, like, such a big upside that it really sky's the limit for her, and to see it kind of start to pay off honestly makes me really happy. And, yeah, I did. I've seen it for, you know, freshman year in high school and freshman year in college are always kind of the not greatest years just because you're having a lot of adjustments and a lot of new things that you really didn't see happening. So, you know, the buffer from 8th grade to freshman year in high school was like, you know, a struggle for me just as much as it was her. And then, you know, she was able to blossom into an amazing golfer and have the opportunity to play at KU. But, no, I think this is just the beginning for her, and she's going to do a lot of great things.
Well, you'll both be down at Southern Hills, one of the historically great courses in America, side of multiple major championships on the men's PGA Tour side and PGA of America, etc. Have you played it? I'm sure you've probably been to some of those events or walked it at least. Tell me about your experience with Southern Hills.
Yeah, so I actually had the opportunity to go down and play it a couple weeks ago for the first time ever. That was my first time ever seeing the property. And I was very pleasantly surprised. You know, you hear a lot about the redo, and Gil Hance was the person that assisted in the redo there. And they kind of kept it at its original design, which I thought was really cool, kind of looking at some of the pictures in the early 1900s when it was first built and versus now. It looks very similar, just a lot less trees. But I had heard a lot of people say, oh, well, it's all Bermuda, which being in the Midwest, you don't hear a lot of all Bermuda golf courses. You hear of, okay, maybe Bermuda fairways, some fescue rough, and bent grass greens. And so I got there kind of a little frustrated because, you know, I thought that there was going to be Bermuda greens, which I don't really get along with very well. And I was pleasantly surprised. There were bent grass greens, not Bermuda. But everything else other than the putting green is Bermuda, which is kind of, it's just hot enough in Oklahoma that they can keep the Bermuda rough alive in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
But great setup. It's going to be a big ballpark. It's playing 6,500 yards, and your driver's kind of taken out of your hand a few times, which makes it even longer. But all in all, I think it's going to be a pretty good setup. The club is great. I think it's going to be an awesome just host site to have everybody. A really accepting membership from what I've heard. They're really excited to have us. So it's definitely a place that I'm looking forward to playing.
Is it a course that helps, your length helps, or does it kind of neutralize your length, or is it just kind of hole by hole in terms of that?
I really think it's hole by hole because, you know, for someone like me who kind of hits it a little further off the tee per se, you know, for me, it's kind of taking the driver out of my hand, which me hitting my 3-wood is kind of the same as some people hitting driver. Mm-hmm. So we'll essentially be having kind of the same yardage in, but I also think that being able to be aggressive at times, especially when you get into match play, and they trick it up a little bit more. Being able to be aggressive with my driver and on par 5 for maybe hitting it in 2, I think it'll come in handy. But taking the driver out of your hands can sometimes be a tricky scenario. Good thing, I am kind of notorious for taking driver out of my hands, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. But thankfully, I have a pretty good 3-wood that goes really far compared to other 3-woods I've hit. So I don't think it'll be too big of a deal. But, no, I think it'll just be kind of a take it hole-by-hole thing and see how they have it set up and just kind of go from there.
You know, I was telling Lyla, I've been down there as a fan, you know, and then as a sports writer back in when Payne played. I got to go down there a couple times, and August at Southern Hills in Tulsa can be miserable with the heat and the humidity and all that. Have you prepped for that? I mean, what do you do precaution-wise going in to make sure you're ready to handle that?
Yeah, so when I was down there a couple weeks ago, I genuinely felt like I was breathing into a hairdryer. I was down there. That is how hot it is. But, no, I've just honestly been pushing the fluids, like trying to drink more than just water. And then I will occasionally go get an IV drip with just extra hydration. So I might do that there in Tulsa next weekend before the first round of stroke play. But it just kind of depends on how I feel. But just really pushing the fluids and trying to, you know, not push it as hard down there. Thankfully, I've been able to go play it, so I'm probably going to split it up into like 2 9-hole practice rounds, so I don't wear myself out too much because it's going to be extremely hot.
Tell us about your summer leading into the Women's Am, and Lyla talked about the qualifying up in Lawrence. I know you had the State Am at Hickory Hills, your home course. What else have you played this summer?
Yeah, so I was an on-site alternate for the U.S. Women's Open. I ended up not getting in. I was the last person not get in, but I was able to spend the week up there and practice and play with some of the pros, which was really fun. So that was a good experience. And then, yeah, I played in the State Am at Hickory. Very fun week. I didn't have my best stuff the first 2 days, but I was able to kind of finish it up, go out with a bang.
Didn't you have just a ridiculously tough start in that?
Yeah, I did. You know, a lot of people will say, oh, it's different playing at home, and I was like, oh, whatever. But then when I teed it up the first day, I was like, wow, this is so different. Like when you're playing at home, it's just different. And have a lot more eyes on you than you normally would. So that was a little bit something I wasn't really expecting, but it was really fun because I got to play with Paige Bowman the second day. So I enjoyed that. But so I played in that, and then I played in the North-South, which I had a pretty good week there. They cut to 32 instead of 64, and that made it just a little bit difficult. I ended up missing it on the number, but still solid week. And then I played in the AM qualifier. I shot 4 under in that to kind of get co-medalist with Lyla, which there's a story to that also that I'll get into. And then I just got back from the LNGA in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and I got 7th, but I did shoot 6 under par, and it was a birdie fest.
Wow.
So, and then now next week the USAM, but in the qualifier in Lawrence, I was one of the last tee times, but Lyla was the last tee time. So I teed off at like 10, and she teed off at like 10:30. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, kind of forgot she was there. We try to text at least once a week, but for some reason I hadn't talked to her in like a couple weeks, and I saw her warming up, and I'm like, holy crap, you're here? And so my dad's caddying for me in the qualifier, and I ended up not making any bogeys that day. So I just had 4 birdies, no bogeys, and I get finished. And I'm kind of waiting around because there's a lot of people sitting at -3, and at that point I think it was like a 6 for 2 playoff. And then I see old Lyla coming up to 18, and I'm like, wonder how she's doing. And so my assistant coach was there at the time, so I was just kind of chatting with him, and she comes out of the scorer's tent, and I'm like, well, he goes, well, I shot 4 under. She said, is that going to be enough? And I said, is that going to be enough? You're in. And we just gave each other a big hug. It was honestly such a full circle moment because, you know, we both kind of went our separate ways in high school, and we were able to qualify for this tournament at the same place. That's really special. So the people at -3 realized that they were playing a 7-1 playoff.
They weren't real thrilled with your relationship. But yeah, they didn't like that much, right?
Yeah.
What will the galleries be like for you guys down in Tulsa, you think? A lot of family members, friends coming down, especially if you get into match play?
Oh, I do. So, fun fact, there's 5 other teammates of mine at Arkansas playing, so there'll be 6 of us.
Wow.
So our coaches will be down there all week. And then I know my parents are coming. I think my grandparents are coming. And then some of our friends, like Jeff Lee, Nick Sanders, all of the Hickory crew, I think, is going to come up for one day, come down for one day. And I don't know. We'll see if anybody else decides to come out. But I think it'll be a really fun week.
Well, you know, it's a rough golf life when your last tournament of the summer is at Southern Hills and your first one of the fall is at Pebble Beach. I mean, that I don't know how anybody can survive that agony of playing some of those goat ranches like that. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
It's honestly, like I tell everyone, it is such a blessing to be out of school where the resources are endless and we have a schedule like we do, like, you know, talking to other schools kind of around, and they're like, when's your first tournament of the fall? And I said, oh, it's Labor Day. And they're like, oh, really, where? And I said, Pebble Beach. They're like, come on. It's like, honestly, one of the best weeks of my whole entire year, every year, getting to tee it up there. And this year it's going to be special because my parents are taking 2 of their, like, pretty good family friends with us, and so they're going to be able to watch and also play Pebble. So that'll be fun. But then we have our home tournament, which is always just a staple. It's awesome. It's on the Golf Channel.
Yeah, I forgot about that. It's Southern Hills, Pebble, and then Blessings. That's a pretty good.
And then Blessings.
Yeah, that's not bad. That doesn't suck, does it?
We have a pretty good trio. And then after that, we have 2 consecutive tournaments in Oklahoma. We have the Stevens Cup, which is at Oklahoma City Country Club, and then Tulsa's tournament at Cedar Ridge. So honestly, 4 really good like clubs to go play.
Well,
so I'm really looking forward to that.
Let's talk about your going into your 3rd year now with the Hogs. You know, how is Regan Zibilski different as a junior? And kind of tell us, I know you guys had a good run last year. I believe you won your regional. You guys were, 6th in the SEC, and probably weren't thrilled with that. But then I think 10th at the NCAA championships. Are most of those girls back? What does this year look like for you and the Razorbacks?
Yeah, so for me, if you would have asked freshman year Regan and junior year Regan to sit at a table facing each other, I don't think they'd recognize each other. Honestly, I mean, looking back to my freshman year, I've grown so much in a lot of different ways, not only on the golf course, but just trying to balance life and juggle all the things that you're thrown as not only an athlete, but a student, and building relationships, and just kind of learning how to be an adult. And I honestly, that's probably going to be one of my biggest takeaways in college, is how much I've been able to grow and take care of myself with everything being thrown at us. But as far as the team goes, we ended up losing 4 girls. 3 of them were actually 5th years due to COVID, and then we lost Miriam. Miriam Ior is from Spain. She was just a regular senior, and she's done.
Okay.
But 2 to 3 of those were, 2 of them were consistent starters, and the other one played in the spring but didn't play in postseason. But we're getting 3 freshmen who should be pretty good. But honestly, I think we're in a really good spot. I really don't think we're necessarily losing any talent We have a really good group of girls who are all pretty tight in the locker room, and, you know, we all work together, and we have a lot of fun while doing it. So I really think that we're in a good place for this year.
Now, your tiny teammate, your number one, she's back, right?
She is. She's back. She's going to be a sophomore.
You said she's what, like 4'10"?
She's 4'11", yeah.
4'11", yeah. And hits it out there just like she's 5'11", right?
Just 5'11", yep. We're roomies on the road, and it's funny, standing next to each other. I've got about a foot on her. So, the yin to my yang, but no, she's awesome, and we're glad to have her back.
Where would you say, where is Regan Zibilski's game right now at the end of her sophomore summer, entering her junior year? Is it where you want it to be? What do we need to do differently maybe at Southern Hills next week and carry on into the school year?
Yeah, no, I'm hitting it really well. I actually just got finished playing and practicing, and I told my dad when I got home, I was like, man, I cannot remember the last time I hit as solid as I did out there today. So I'm feeling really good about that. And, you know, I just got to work on those little chips and pitches off of Bermuda grass. You get into that grain where it's thatchy and chipping just becomes a whole lot harder. And then putting is always a work in progress. But honestly, if I can just work on keeping my body healthy and being fueled and hydrated, I think I'm right where I need to be to kind of make a run at this thing next week and go in with some momentum into Pebble.
What do you have to do to get on TV next week? When do they pick up the coverage? Is that a weekend thing with the Golf Channel maybe?
No, so I think they'll do some highlights from stroke play and on like Wednesday morning, and then I think a few matches will be on Peacock, and then it'll go to Golf Channel after like the first few days of the match play.
How cool would that be if it's you and Lyla in the final?
I don't think that something like that would ever happen again. I think that would be awesome. That'd be a heck of a story, though. Yeah.
You wouldn't play any mind games with her, would you?
Oh, maybe just a few.
Just a
but
few?
She knows.
No, she knows. She would expect it, right?
She would know exactly.
That's awesome. Well, hey, Regan, thanks for your time. Again, best of luck to you and Lyla next week, and thanks for taking time out from practice to kind of chat again, and we'll catch up with you again this winter, okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you, Regan. That's going to do it for another edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene with Scott Puryear. Thanks for listening. As always, thanks to Fast Break Sports. Go see the guys over there on South Campbell for all your sports card needs, collectibles. They've got all the supplies, and they've got a great selection of memorabilia for your fan cave with football season just around the corner. Special thanks to Regan and Lyla for joining me. Best of luck to them next week, and we'll see you next week here on Around the Ozarks Sports Scene.
You slept through your alarm, missed the train, and your breakfast sandwich, cold. Sounds like you could use some luck.
I'm Victoria Cash, and Lucky Land is where people go every day to get lucky. At Lucky Land, you can play over 100 casino-style games for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Go to LuckyLandSlots.com and get lucky today. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.